These 10 fragrances are the reason why this video exists. That's disgustingly obvious. I know. On the surface, absolutely silly title, right? I'm going to remove my headphones. I don't need this. But it is more than what it seems. Obviously, yes. I made a video about these fragrances, and that's why the video exists. It's a chicken before the egg thing, but it's deeper than that. I'm going to be talking about 10 fragrances that are literally the reason why this channel exists, and therefore why this video exists, because I make videos on this channel. I think it makes sense now. We're taking a little bit of a deep dive back, and this is actually an idea I put together in commemoration of my 1000th post on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, and also on TikTok. I forgot to add that. I'm on TikTok now, guys. I'm one of the cool ones. Gonna be big. Right? And in that post, I took a collection of fragrances that, upon smelling them, essentially made me say, I didn't know a fragrance could smell like this. They sparked something in me. It's hard to explain. They may not all be special to you, but for whatever reason, these are the fragrances that kept me on my journey from the time I started over 6 years ago till today. So I'm going to share them with you chronologically from earliest to most recent. And most importantly, I lied. We're talking about more than 10 fragrances. I just decided right now to add a couple more that I forgot to add. These had a true impact on me. They've been fuel for my fire, so to speak. So let's dive right into it. First up is the first designer fragrance I ever smelled in a store after getting really excited about collecting fragrances, and I bought it right then and there. I bought it on the spot. It was amazing to me. Again, I can't even explain why, but I bought it. And my cap is filthy. You'll have to forgive me. I've had this bottle since 2016, and I've tried for the life of me to polish this cap, but it is unpolishable. It's not a word, and I'm sure I could actually clean it if I put a lot more effort into it. But this is from Yves Saint Laurent. This is the original L'Homme. Again, I don't know what it is. This stuff struck me. I smelled it from paper in the store. I looked the sales associate in the eye who was across the counter from me, and I told her, this is so elegant. And she looked at me and said,
great. You want to buy it?
And I said, yes. And I bought it, which was a mistake because I could have gotten it cheaper online, but I didn't know that at the time. And I've talked about this a lot, but not all that much these days. Again, something that just really jump-started my excitement. It was so elegant to me. It was so refined and gentlemanly, soft, but in the most beautiful way, fresh, but in a way that doesn't smell super generic, sweet, but in a way that's not overly playful or juvenile. It's just a perfect blend. Ginger, almost an apple feel, sweet tonka bean, maybe some woody vetiver, creamy, sweet, fresh, beautiful. Definitely one of the first reasons why this channel exists. L'Homme from Yves Saint Laurent. So it was not long after I started watching videos, maybe within the first few days of really diving into certain reviewers who were around at the time, that I learned of the fragrance Creed Aventus, which is this one. I didn't smell Creed Aventus right away. It actually sounded a little bit scary to me. It sounded like something I wasn't sure I would like, but then I kept hearing murmurs of another fragrance that smelled just like it, but you could get for a fraction of the cost. Club d'Amouid Intense Man. I don't have this anymore, but I did buy it, and I actually bought it and smelled it before I ever tried Aventus, and I smelled it. I'll never forget that day opening the box, spraying it, and saying, oh, I've never smelled anything like this. Is this what Aventus smells like? There's no way. This is so weird. But I couldn't get away from it. Very lemony and sharp and woody and smoky and leathery and all kinds of things that I'd never really imagined being together. I was intrigued, so I bought a sample of Aventus, sprayed them side by side, and realized, yeah, this is essentially what Aventus smells like. I can't believe it. And I liked Aventus a whole lot more. So I ended up getting a bottle as a gift from a good friend of mine. Not long after that, I got rid of Club d'Amouid Intense Man because I was just wearing this over that. I didn't really care for it anymore. But it's really what started to open my world to niche perfumery, believe it or not, and made Aventus one of my most worn fragrances ever. You can see this bottle, which I don't wear a ton of anymore. I put some wares into this thing and I loved it and made me want to dig deeper, which we're going to do now. That's Creed Aventus. Up next is what I would say the first niche fragrance that I bought a sample of blindly. I remember Jeremy Fragrance mentioned this very, very offhand in a video, some offshoot video that's probably not even on his channel anymore. He mentioned Bois 1920 Dolce di Giorno. At the time, I was interested in niche. I was buying designers. I was already getting a little bit bored with my, two dozen designers I had already bought that started to smell the same. And I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and get a sample of it. Why not? I got a sample, totally blind, did not expect to be enamored with this fragrance. I used that sample for a while. It was a 10 milliliter decant that I sprayed the heck out of. I did end up getting a bottle as a gift for my birthday from some very special people, and I've loved it ever since. This kind of gave me a boldness to want to just discover more niche, even stuff that no one was really talking about. And I realized I need to start finding stuff I love, not just stuff that everyone is talking about and everyone is loving. It took me some years to truly accept that and lean into that. This stuff is incredible. Warm, spicy cinnamon, dry cedar wood, slightly creamy vanilla, some fruity plum, and a little bit of this interesting old wooden barrel feeling from Cypriol. Really nice stuff. I've been recommending it ever since. We're into 2017 now. In 2017, this fragrance was released. I just saw the bottle of it alone and I was like, whoa, that looks like something really good. I was very drawn to the color. And then I started hearing about it and hearing how polarizing it was. Certain people saying, oh my gosh, this smells like a doctor's office. It's so medicinal. It smells like I put my face in a box of Band-Aids and all these things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. Do I want to smell this? The answer was still yes. I got a sample. First sprayed and I had a duality of thoughts come to mind. First, oh my gosh,
I can't wear this.
But then on the other hand, I couldn't stop smelling it. I kept smelling it on my hand for days and days. And I went through that decant and still was like, I don't know. Let me just tell you what it is. This is Gucci Guilty Absolute. I sprayed that decant several times, went through it, still wasn't sure if I could ever pull it off. Once it got discontinued, that's when I realized, okay, I need to get a bottle of this stuff because I've been obsessed with it secretly for a while. And even though I'm not sure about it, I know I love it. So I bought a bottle and I'm so glad I did. This is not for everyone, but there's something about it that I found intoxicating. I still do. And it jump-started my interest and my faith in the designer market. I did not expect this to ever come from a big house designer brand. So Gucci Guilty Absolute, again, not for everyone, but it kept me going. In that same year, 2017, from the good friend of mine who also sent me a Ventus, that same year, they sent this bottle as well in that package, and I had never even heard of it. And it wasn't until after I got it that I started seeing it everywhere and seeing how much people loved it, but I wasn't ready for it yet. This is Cher Guy from Serge Lutens. This is one of those fragrances that started a quiet fire for me. It was a slow implantation of interest. I didn't know it at the time. When I first smelled this, I remember thinking, this is beautiful. This is completely unlike anything I've ever experienced, but there's something about it that makes me uncomfortable to wear it as a man. It felt like it was a little bit riding the line, or maybe I'd come off a little bit too feminine. It has a pretty distinctive powdery quality, and I think that's why I felt that way. But I ended up returning that bottle to him because I said, I can't wear this. I don't want to hold on to it if I'm not going to use it. I do appreciate it though. But I kept thinking about it, and I finally decided after 3 years of thinking about it, I need to just get a bottle of this stuff. I can't get it out of my head. So I ended up getting it, and I'm so glad I did. Tobacco, hay, honey, iris. It's sweet, dark, rich, powdery, a little bit rustic, woody smelling in a way. Super elegant, very unique. Cher Guy. Okay, let's fast forward to 2019. 2018 was the year that I stepped away from my YouTube channel. So I didn't stop smelling altogether, but I did slow down my discovery and acquisition quite a bit. I did end up restarting my channel at the end of 2018, and then 2019 I was back on my feet. And this fragrance came into my life and introduced me to this brand, which is to this day one of my favorite niche brands. And this is Nichane Fan Your Flames. As you can see, I haven't worn this a whole lot. I've had it for almost 4 years now. And you would think, well, how do you love a fragrance so much that you've barely worn? Well, first of all, it's super strong. So when I do wear it, I typically don't wear more than 2 sprays. It's so strong, it overwhelms me if I spray any more than that. I had never smelled anything like this. It's a combination of 2 worlds that you don't expect to collide. Boozy tropical cocktail on one hand. You have rum, you have coconut working together. But then on the other hand, it's dark, sweet, smoky, ambery, wooden barrel barrel feel. I would just recommend getting a sample of this. Check it out at DCanX. Use the code STAYFRESH15. I just recommend you sample this if you haven't. This is gonna blow your mind. It doesn't mean you're gonna love it, but it is going to mark a time in your fragrant life where you'll never forget this and how it made you feel. That's Fan Your Flames. Later on that year, 2019, a good friend of mine, Robert, who has a channel, I think he calls it Fragrance Journey, and you should definitely subscribe to him. I'll try to remember to link to him down below. Went to Paris or somewhere overseas and was generous enough to get a bunch of samples from this brand and send them to me. He was so generous, he didn't have to do that, and I'll never forget that. So Robert, thank you. And of those samples that I tried, there was at least 4 or 5 fragrances that blew me away. They were so cohesive, you could tell that each one of them had an olfactory signature tied to the brand. I love that. And each one of them did something a little different. They were all very robust, very challenging, and a bit transformative, honestly. That brand was Javoy, and one of the fragrances that really stood out to me so much, and one of my good friends was so generous enough to gift me with this bottle a little bit later on, maybe the following year. Incident Diplomatique. I've talked about this a lot on this channel. I don't know what it is. Again, it resonates with me so deeply. Earthy, woody, smoky, ashy vetiver with a little bit of this juicy brightness and spice from nutmeg and mandarin orange. It's kind of green, woody, ashy, almost like the smell of someone's clothing after a night of smoking. That sounds terrible, I know, but there's something so intoxicating about it. And there's an illusion of booziness in here. I can't explain it. I don't think there's actually booze in here, but I get that vibe. Very polarizing, but very authoritative, and it changed the game for me. It made me love vetiver even more, and it jump-started me looking for more vetiver fragrances, and now I have a ton of them. So that is Incident Diplomatique from Javoy. That same year, I was enthralled by this fragrance, and you'll see it in videos if you go back to this time when I was featuring this fragrance. Around late 2019, early 2020, I was all about Roger Parfum's Scandal Parfum Cologne. This was like the ring to my golem. This is a fougere. It's very fresh, spicy, and aromatic, but there is this slightly funky, mature edge to it that really gives it a lot of character. It is a barbershop style fragrance, but Scandal is a perfect name for it. There's something about it that gets people's attention in a bit of a sexy way, even though it is clean and refined smelling as most fougères are. Again, beautiful edge here. And I have loved it ever since. I have the Parfum version as well, which is also wonderful. So that is Scandal. I think I got something out of order here. I have another Roger fragrance here to talk about. I didn't get this bottle, I believe, until 2020, but I first smelled it, I think it was the end of 2018. So I got this a little out of order, I apologize, but this is Oligarch. This has easily become my favorite Roger fragrance to date. I got a discovery atomizer from a friend and it blew me away. I was not expecting it at all. I'm like,
Is this real? Why do I love this so much?
I did a video with my family back then. I showed it to them and they were all blown away. It was their favorite fragrance I showed them. Something so luxurious about this for being so easy to wear. It is a fresh citrus kind of fruity scent with some green notes, spicy, woody, a little bit warm as it dries down. It's a big mishmash of so many wonderful things, but it comes off as so easy to wear, but so refined. This is the Eau de Parfum, which was the first version I ever tried as a discovery atomizer. You can't get it anymore. The Parfum then came out, which was then pulled, and they're renaming it, and it will be re-released shortly, maybe later this year. But I have to mention Oligarch from Roger Parfum. All right, let's look at late 2019. I think it was November. And this fragrance had come out earlier that year. This is from Le Labo. It came out as a city exclusive for the city of Miami. I smelled it in Portland, but I smelled it from a sample. It just so happened that the store still had a few samples left. They were no longer selling the bottle because the bottle as a city exclusive was only available for the month of September that year. So I was left with the sample for years. A tiny little like 1.5 or 2 milliliter sample that I babied for several years. It's Tabac 28. And I've talked about it a lot because it is my favorite Le Labo fragrance. It just completely captured me. Boozy, dry, spicy, warm, earthy tobacco. A little bit of rum, kind of sweet, but not overly sweet. There's a roughness to it. There's a smokiness to it. It is mostly simple, doesn't change a whole lot, but it just transports me to being at a villa on a balcony at dusk with maybe a glass of rum and a nice cigar or something like that. It is so gorgeous. And it wasn't until a couple years after that that my wife Grace bought me a bottle, surprised me for my birthday, which was incredible. Anyway, Tabak 28, if you can get your hands on a sample, please do. Again, it's my favorite from the brand. I'll link to what I can find down below. Later on in 2020, one of my good friends, Wayne Harris. I really appreciate you, Wayne. You turned me on to this brand. I had heard about them a little bit, but never even thought to smell them. Gifted me this bottle out of the blue. I couldn't believe it, and it rocked my world. I haven't been able to put it down since, and I think I've turned a few of you onto it as well. This is coming from the house of Chris Collins. It's Oud Galore. And this is one of those fragrances that is expensive, but it smells expensive. This is a very westernized, easy to understand oud rose. More of a medicinal oud, not dry or earthy funky. Kind of clean, medicinal woody that is in the background of some beautiful sweet jammy rose, some buttery, creamy orris that's a little rooty, and a bit of an almost aromatic quality that does make it a little bit welcoming, but it is a niche fragrance through and through. Maybe not the most authentic oud rose fragrance out there, because again, it is catered towards the nose of those who are not familiar with the genre. Incredible quality here, beautiful wearing experience, so elegant. Blew my mind, has kept me going. Oud Galore. We have our final fragrance here, but then I have a couple honorable mentions I want to throw in. This fragrance came to me not long ago. This was in 2022. I did not expect to love this. It came to me out of the blue from Max Aroma. I didn't know anything about the brand. I sprayed this and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And it has become a phenomenon ever since. It's hard to find these days, but if you can find it, do try it. This is Vanilla Oud from Vertus. I'm so thankful for this fragrance. I'm thankful to Max Aroma for sending this to me, because this got me so excited about a niche brand that I was not familiar with. And I've talked about Vanilla Oud so much. It is a smoky, almost caramelized vanilla oud feel. It is so luxurious, the way it hangs in the air. It's so smooth, creamy, sweet, but that darkness makes it so sexy. Oh my gosh, if you can sample it, sample it. I'll share what I can find down below, but I'm so excited about vanilla fragrances now as a result of Vanilla Oud. Love this stuff. And I would be remiss in talking about the history of this channel and not mentioning two of my own fragrances that would not exist if it were not for this channel. We have the original Brass and Soul, came out 2021, and then we have Second Soul, came out the following year, 2022. And I'm not going to talk much about them. I will link a video, or at least a playlist or something, up to Second Soul up here if you want to learn more about it. It is still available. Brass and Soul is now sold out, and I was honored to have so many of you guys experience this. Second Soul is selling quickly, so if you are interested in checking it out, do check it out. But this to me is what I would want my own fragrance to smell like. This is the culmination of my taste, of my philosophy on fragrance. How these work together really is that in a whole, but this being the available release, this is me in a bottle. If you're looking for that, if you have interest in that, and you support Stay Fresh Productions, or you want to, do check out Second Soul, my collaboration with Zaharoff. Link down below. All right, that's it. I had a great time walking down memory lane with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to know what you think down in the comments. I'm going to have links to everything down below in the description if you want to try them. We're pushing for 100K subscribers this year. I hope you'll be a part of that. If you're watching this video and you have not yet subscribed, join the Fresh Squad. Absolutely free. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.